best place to get the real news. This past Friday, Michael Caputo, a friend of mine for much of my adult life, testified before the House Intelligence Committee in their inquiry into Russian collusion into the campaign of Donald Trump, allegedly for the purposes of electing him over Hillary Clinton. I believe the House Intelligence Committee, and particularly Congresswoman Jackie Speier of California, owe Michael Caputo an apology. You see, Michael Caputo had no contacts whatsoever with any Russians, no knowledge of any Russian collusion. His sin seems to be that in the 80s he lived in Russia, and that he has a wife who is Ukrainian. This may come as a terrible shock to Maxine Waters, but Russia and Ukraine are two different countries. At the time of his involvement in Russia, Mr. Caputo was actually working for the United States government through the USIA, but in fact involved in a government-sanctioned CIA program to tip the Russian presidential election to Boris Yeltsin. This was, of course, during the Clinton administration. The point, of course, is that we in the United States have clearly interfered in a Russian election. Mr. Caputo, a very able fellow who I first met when he was working for Congressman Jack Kemp, who ultimately he would ably serve as press secretary and communications director, had the high honor of once being a driver at the august firm of Black, Manafort, Stone, and Atwater. He is a proud veteran of the U.S. Army. He is a superb writer and editor, and a very talented fellow with a wealth of campaign experience. That's why he went to work for the Trump campaign in their New York office. He was hauled before this committee for no good reason whatsoever, not on the basis of some probable cause or some email that linked him in any way to Russian collusion. But that did not mean that Mr. Caputo did not need to hire a lawyer, did not need to travel to Washington, and most disgustingly did have to put up with the threats at his home and place of business from left-wing nut jobs all over Western New York. Mr. Caputo's testimony took roughly 3.5 hours, of which I'm told more than 2 hours were about one Roger J. Stone, Jr. At the same time, the House Intelligence Committee canceled my scheduled testimony for July 24th. Just to remind you, I am anxious to testify. I have not asked for immunity. I have not asked I don't require a subpoena. I will come voluntarily. But I have repeatedly asked that my testimony be in public, something the Democrats on the committee just will not agree to. This seems to me to be elementary fairness. I have been maligned by Mr. Schiff, Ms. Speier, Mr. Swalwell, and other members of the committee who have made patently false and defamatory, in a normal circumstance, comments about me in public, having no qualms about that, but want to give me my opportunity to answer in private. This is inherently unfair. Nonetheless, with the agreement that we would release a transcript, I am willing to testify behind closed doors if that's what it takes to prove the point that there was no Russian collusion. When will I testify? Stand by. Why, thank you very much, Mr. President. I am indeed Roger Stone, and you're back on InfoWars. Before we go any further, I want to remind you that we here at InfoWars are seeking to expand. We want more people to hear the voice of freedom. I have just reached an agreement with Alex Jones, and soon you will be able to hear me here on InfoWars 5 days a week. And we are going to bring you the cutting edge news out of Washington and the fight between the globalists and the patriots, which is only just beginning. But we cannot even anticipate these kinds of expansions, bureaus in other cities, additional journalists to help us uncover the corruption of the globalists and their ilk without help from you. That's why I once again urge you to hit the Infowars.com store. Now, in my family, the T-shirts there are invariably a hit. If you don't have your Trump-Pence 2020 T-shirt, you should grab it now, because this is going to end up in the Smithsonian. I believe you can still get the Hillary for Prison 2017 T-shirt at the Infowars.com store. These items are, I think, crucial parts of Americana. And if you can get these, you become a one-person First Amendment advocate. The iconic Bill Clinton rape T-shirt. Folks, when these sell out, there will be no more. This is the T-shirt that the Time magazine and others wrote about, which we use to break the mainstream media blackout on Bill Clinton's history as a rapist and a sexual assaulter of women. The mainstream media preferred to call it far more innocuous terms such as infidelities and indiscretions. So this is a T-shirt that played a role in history, thanks to Alex Jones and so many of you. Get these items now. You not only, when you're in public, will hook up with kindred spirits, other patriots who like your T-shirt and know you're on board the Trump train, or that you're a patriot. Get the Paul Joseph Watson T-shirt, and you'll find other Watson aficionados. But do it now. It helps the cause, and it helps us fight those who would strangle us here at InfoWars when it comes to information. The left is well aware of the fact that without a vibrant and robust alternative media, without InfoWars and Breitbart and Daily Caller and Town Hall and Gateway Pundit and so many others, the election of Donald Trump would have been unthinkable. Now they seek to use tricky algorithms and other computer tricks to limit our ability to reach you, to limit our retweets and our reposts. It takes money to fight this, folks. It takes a lot of effort here at InfoWars to keep the cutting-edge information coming to us, get us to put it in digestible form and get it to you so you can remain on the cutting edge of the InfoWars. Please go to the store today and give us the support we need. Many times people ask me as I travel, what should President Trump do now? If you're familiar with Stone's rules, well, then you know one of the most important rules is you never win on defense, or the corollary, attack, attack, attack. The entire Russian collusion delusion has collapsed around the Democrats and the mainstream media's ears. They have nothing other than an innocuous meeting by Donald Trump Jr., who was contacted by someone he knew, a friend, who told me that who told him that a Russian lawyer had information detrimental to Hillary Clinton that could affect the campaign. In all honesty, Don Jr. would have been guilty of malpractice as a supporter of his father, not to glean whether there was accurate information and its source. We now know, of course, that that information was not forthcoming. And there are many suspicious things about this meeting, including the fact that James Comey's FBI let this shady woman lawyer into the country so that she could meet with Don Jr. Can you say set up? We also seem to learn every 15 minutes that this meeting had yet another participant. Where did they have this meeting? Yankee Stadium? The point, of course, is that Donald Trump Jr. did nothing improper, did nothing wrong, did nothing illegal, but this is what the mainstream media has. Where is the collusion? What came from this meeting that somehow affected the election? The answer is nothing. But instead of arguing about that, we should be arguing about the fact that the NSA, under former President Barack Obama, routinely violated the U.S. Constitution while scouring through overseas intercepts and then failing to fess up to the extent to which they abused this information. Don't take it from me, take it from the U.S. FISA court. Tens of thousands of Americans were illegally surveilled in violation of the Constitution and the law. This is much, much bigger than Watergate. No, this is not a conspiracy theory. My source is the FISA court of the United States government. So the question is very, very clear. What did Susan Rice know? What did Ben Rhodes know? What did Mr. Admiral Rogers know? What did James Clapper know? What did former CIA Director John Brennan know? It's time to find out. And the only way we can find out is by Attorney General Jeff Sessions convening a grand jury and beginning an earnest investigation into why Barack Obama and his administration violated the civil liberties and constitutional rights of scores of Americans. Again, far worse than anything ever alleged in Watergate. This story was broken by Circa News in an extraordinary article by Sarah Carter and John Solomon, who have broken a number of blockbuster stories about the excesses of the Obama administration. And I'm sure you remember reading about this incredible breach of civil liberties, an extraordinarily illegal activity on the front page of the New York Times and the Washington Post. Oh, you didn't see it there. Well, that's because they didn't cover it. This is perhaps the largest breach of American data of private citizens in history. Certainly the most serious legal abuse by the intelligence agencies, including the FBI, in recent American history. Yet what you've gotten is a media blackout. And of course, there is the central question. What did the president know, and when did he know it? You see, no person is above the law, and it happened under Barack Obama's watch. Just as former President Richard Nixon was held responsible for the excesses and in some cases illegalities under his watch, so must President Obama be held responsible for the actions of his appointees, and what his criminal culpability is needs to be determined. Now, I'm hopeful that Chairman Nunes of the House Committee will examine this, which has nothing to do with Russia, and determine where the law has been broken. But one wonders why the U.S. Attorney General, Mr. Sessions, seems more obsessed with cracking down on the 29 states that have legalized marijuana than he is in putting Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, and Barack Obama in prison. Make no mistake about it, the plan of the left is clear. Robert Mueller, maneuvered into office by a deputy attorney general who is a neocon hitman for both the Clintons and the Bushes, Mr. Rosenstein, will now drag out a 2-year investigation seeking some dirt on the president. Dirt that he has not found so far. Dirt that may have to be manufactured by Mr. Comey. Mr. Comey, Mr. Rosenstein, and Mr. Mueller are better known as the Three Amigos. All three of them have been hitmen for Bill and Hillary Clinton, as well as the Bush family. All three of them have colluded together to railroad Donald Trump and to, I would say, destabilize and delegitimize his presidency. The Democrats hope that they win the House in 18 with a hope that then anything that they offer as an assault on the president could be used as the grounds for impeachment. That is the left's game plan, folks. I just laid it out for you. And quite honestly, there are two ways to defeat it. First of all, we must decapitate the deep state enemy. You cannot win, as I said earlier, on defense. It is time for Donald Trump, our president, to lay out for the American people the extraordinary civil liberties abuses and the spying that was done on Americans in violation of the Constitution. And it is time for the Justice Department to seek justice and criminal convictions among those who were involved. Yes, that is up to and including President Barack Obama, if the evidence goes there. No person is above the law. And then secondarily, we have to recognize that those weak sisters who are wringing their hands about the 2018 elections don't understand that it is far too early to see what the political situation will be in the fall of 2018. Our politics today moves faster than ever because of the internet-based 24-hour news cycle. And therefore, we don't know, for example, the state of the economy. If you go to thestonecoldtruth.com, I have a terrific story on the successes of Donald Trump, the successes that you aren't reading about in the mainstream media, the job numbers, the stock market, consumer confidence, indicators in a number of different industries show that the program of cutting regulations and simplifying doing business in America, and also just the perception that we have a pro-business president who knows what he's doing, well, despite continuous attacks, Donald Trump is getting the job done. And that economy will manifest itself in even greater strides in term for the 2018 election. And then we need outstanding candidates. Let me name one. That would be Omar Navarro, who's had the gumptions to take on Maxine Waters, one of the most corrupt, out-of-touch Trump haters in the U.S. Congress. Now, Omar lives in the district in which he'll be running. Unfortunately, Maxine Waters does not live in the district in which she was running. She, a millionaire, lives in a mansion nearby in Hancock. She has one of the poorest districts in the United States, but believe me, Maxine Waters and her husband live high on a number of scams. She has had numerous ethical problems, which are well documented. If someone would like to do a Google search, let me just say this. If she were a Hispanic male rather than an African American woman, I think she'd be in prison right now. But she is one of a protected political class of elites. You notice when they began to ask Susan Rice about why she was being investigated over the illicit use of surveillance information, she said, I'm being targeted because I'm a woman and a black. No, I oppose Maxine Waters because of her record, not her ethnicity. I oppose her not because of her gender, but because she is corrupt, for the same reasons that I think Susan Rice should be prosecuted because she broke the law, not because who or what she is. In any event, Omar Navarro reminds me of a young Richard Nixon running for his first congressional term. He's tough, he's feisty, he's energetic, he's knowledgeable on the issues, and he's running a real grassroots campaign. This district, which was once solidly African American, now has a plurality of Hispanic voters. And there is, I think, a general disgust in the district with the fact that Maxine Waters is living high, and she gives lip service to economic growth and opportunity, but nothing has improved for the people of her district. This will be one of the epic congressional races for you to watch, and I ask you to do so. Take a minute to go to Omar Navarro's website and make a contribution. This is a grassroots campaign. We don't have billionaire super PACs supporting candidates like Omar. But do yourself a favor and watch this race. Watch it very carefully. It is young, liberty-minded conservatives like Omar Navarro that are the future